And welcome. So my first guest is Mr. Ebenezer Afo of Morgan International Community School. He's a teacher. And then my second guest, we have Miss Regina Nkuma Mensah, Mrs. anyway, where I work, we usually use Mr. and Miss, so pardon me, but you are Mrs. Regina Nkuma Mensah. We have Miss Precious Jejom Akpolong. I've tried as much as possible to pronounce it. I think today you can help us with that. How do you pronounce it?
Jidepo.
Okay, so Jidepo, right?
Yes, Jidepo.
Right in pronunciation. And then the surname?
Akpolome.
Akpolome. Okay. So today I've gotten it right. Okay. So we are very happy to have you three on board, and we can't wait to learn from you all. So starting with the ladies. So Mrs. Regina Nkuma Mensah, I'll give you about 4 minutes to tell us about yourself. So the stage is all yours. Kindly unmute and tell us a bit about yourself, your educational background, your work experience, and a few things you'd like to share with us about your profile.
Okay, so Miss Regina Nkuma Mensah. I finished my first degree at the University of Cape Coast as a Bachelor of Science Psychology student. I enrolled in a master's program at UG, where I did a master's in leadership and administration. I have been working in the education sector for the past 11 years. I started off at British International School, a full Cambridge school, worked there for 5 years, and moved to Anglo Gold Ashanti School in Obuasi, which is a private school but does the GES curriculum. I stayed there for 2 years, then moved back to Accra, and currently working with Penfield School at Oyarifa. My journey has been off and on in the classroom and more of administrative duties. So in my first station at British International School, I started off as a teaching assistant, where I moved to become an administrative assistant. Then I have been in the administrative field till now, but once in a while I move into the classroom and I do a lot of teaching. I am married with 3 adorable boys, and I'm so proud of them. So that's a little thing about myself.
Tells me you're a very strong woman with 3 boys at home, and how you are managing the situation, only God knows.
Only God knows.
Anyway, the Lord is your strength. Thank you very much. I think your profile is detailed enough, and we are very glad to have you here.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Miss Precious.
Hi.
The stage is all yours. Hello.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Yes, so the name is Precious Jidepo Akpolome. A teacher by profession, which I'm really proud of. Started my journey way back in 2004 to 2007 when I had my training college education to train as a teacher at St. Teresa's College, Hockway, which I'm always proud of because they have turned me into who I am today. From Terresco, I joined GES, worked with GES for 9 years. During my time with GES, I had my Bachelor of Education with UCC, equally with my MEd in Administration in higher institutions. And just after the 9th year, I felt I was too comfortable within the GES system and I needed a challenging environment. So I proceeded to Morgan International Community School. I actually applied as head of primary, but unfortunately, when I got there, it was realized that I didn't have the international setup like background, because all my background has been within GES. But one thing they realized was, looking at my CV, they realized I've undergone a lot of training personally, and they thought it wise that they would rather employ me as a teacher, so that as the years pass by, they could train me to actually aspire to the position I wanted to. And I thought that was in the right direction, because I felt they were also up to the game to help me through my journey. So I took the offer, and 2 years down the line with Morgan, I became the head of academics for the primary division at East Legon, up until 2020, when I decided to quit, because I was looking at myself more into teacher development. So I joined Ghana Society for Education, where we train teachers within the teaching space. But did that for some months, and I realized that no, the passion is still there to teach. So why don't I go back to my teaching field? Because even with the training of teachers, teaching is still ongoing, but it's something that doesn't come regularly. But I think I was missing my kids, so I have to go back. And currently with Ecole Ronsard Bilingual School, where I teach English for year 5 and 6, and also the head of the primary department. Yes, aside my teaching, I also have a passion of helping young kids, most especially those in our rural communities, because throughout my journey, I've realized that most of the kids in the rural communities don't have the opportunity to look up to people or to get people to inspire them. And so I decided to take up that challenge to inspire them, most especially in the area of reading, because you all agree with me that reading is the basis of everything that we do in and outside the classroom. And so if we are able to encourage our young ones to take up the habit of reading, that will go a long way to help us. And so that is what I've been up to. Yes, and always ready to learn. Yes, so in short, that is all about Precious. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Precious. And I think I've learned a lot already. The fact that we need to undergo lots of training and acquire some experiences. And these are some of the things that will put us in good stead wherever we go. So already I've learned a lot. And the participants here, we cherish all of you. And if you'd like to know how important Ms. Precious is to her school, her first name says it all. I will not go any further. So, Mr. Shen, let's also hear from you. Kindly unmute and tell us a little bit about yourself. Sorry, Mr. Afo. Mr. Afo. Mr. Afo, if you can hear me. Is Mr. Afo with us? Afo with us, please. Mr. Benizapo. Yeah, he's here. Kindly unmute yourself while.
Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. I had a challenge with my network, so I have to borrow a phone from a colleague. So I'm using a Sean's phone. So, yeah. Okay. All right. So as you rightly said, I'm Ebenezer Afo. I started my schooling, my second cycle schooling at Boa Ponsim Senior High School, where I studied science, and they made me who I am today, and I'm very proud of Boa Ponsim Senior High School. I say it everywhere, and I'm happy I'm here. Now for Morgan International, from Boa Ponsim Senior High School, I had admission to University of Cape Coast, where I pursued Bachelor of Science in Molecular Biology and Biotechnology. After my 4-year program, I was retained as a teaching assistant. Before I entered UCC, I didn't have any plan of teaching. But after completion, I was retained as a teaching assistant, and that's where the passion of teaching started. So I was with University of Cape Coast, Department of Molecular Biology and Biotechnology for a year. So when our service period ended, my lecturer had a grant, so he asked me to stay if I don't have any job immediately. So I was with him until February 2018, when I had appointment with Ghana Education Service. So I started teaching at Agona Fankoban Senior High School in 2018. I was with them for a year and a half. Then in November 2019, I had an appointment with Ghana Christian International High School, Dodowa. So in March 2020, COVID came up, and so schools has to close down and all that. So teachers were not actually going to school. So when COVID ended in August, we were still not called to come to school. So man must stop, we must still hustle. So I sent my letter to, I saw job advertisement at Morgan International Community School. So I sent my application there. It was just around that time that they started calling us, but I had gone to Morgan International School already. So I had an appointment with Morgan International School in August 2020, where I started teaching IG, CSC, and then IB. But since today our focus is not with the IB, I'll talk more about the IG, CSC. But then back in Ghana Christian High, I was the class advisor. So in the GES setting, it would be class teacher, and then I was the combined science of combined science. So in the GES setting, combined science is just like integrated science. Then back in Morgan International School, currently I'm also in Morgan International School. I happen to be the prep coordinator. Then later I had an appointment to be the learning support coordinator. Currently I'm the head of science and maths department. So briefly it's about
Thank you very much, Mr. Afo. Well detailed, and it looks like you all passed through UCC. Anyway,
what's the secret in UCC?
In one way or the other, they all passed through UCC, but I think that so none of you crossed paths with each other. Perhaps you met on campus, but you don't know. I mean, as at that time, you didn't know yourself, but it's good to meet each other today. That's very good. So once again, you are all welcome. You've already heard from our guests. They have the experience, they have the connections, they are very resourceful, and we're going to learn from them. So let us enjoy the session. So I'll move on to my first question. So we would like to know what it will take to become a tutor of a Cambridge school. if I would like to teach in a Cambridge school or with a Cambridge curriculum, what are some of the things I need to go through, I need to do in order to be considered as worthy of being a teacher of a Cambridge school? So I'll come back to you, Ms. Regina and Kuma. Quickly, if you can take us through, because I don't know. Okay. I tried a couple of times when I was done with my university education. I sent not less than 3 letters to Penfield. I wasn't even called. They didn't even tell me they received any of my letters. So what does it take to get into a Cambridge school?
Well, what it takes to be in a Cambridge school. For me, being in the Cambridge schools, it has been by grace. So I won't say it was any effort that I put in, because with my first school, British International School, I went there as a teaching assistant, and I had just completed university. That was 2010, did my national service 2011. So immediately after my national service, I got the appointment at British International School. Initially, they were looking for someone who had a pure science background, but God being on my side, when I went and I had my interview with the HR, I guess it was just grace. For me, I wouldn't say it was any experience that I had that got me there. It was the grace, but God being on my side and me also being very diligent, I worked hard and I just stayed in the classroom for just 4 months, 1 term, and the subsequent terms I was taken to the administrative office. So I believe there are some qualifications that you will need. However, your experience somewhere, the grace somewhere can lead you where you don't deserve. So for me, I didn't have to have anything spectacular to be there. Same with Penfield. Yes, I do. I did have my experience at British International School. So when I went there, they considered what I did at British International School before they picked me. They asked me some few things that I was doing, which I nailed it, and it got me the job there. So for my side, I can't really pinpoint that you need to go through A, B, C, D to get into a Cambridge school. But maybe my colleagues would have. I think Precious will have the better information about that, because she said that she had to go through some trainings and become better. But for being in a Cambridge school, I think it's the best experience one can ever have, because you learn on the job. You really learn. So I'll just leave it for those who had some qualifications and other things to get them there speak, because I landed there in grace.
Thank you very much. So Grace has been speaking, and so apart from your qualifications, it's also very important to meet Grace. Otherwise, you will not be given the opportunity. So hers is by chance, by accident, but she keeps telling you that she nailed it when she got the opportunity, or when the opportunity presented itself. She was able to work harder to catch up. So at the end of the day, even if you have the grace and you're not able to work hard, it might be taken from you. So yes, I've learned a lot from you already. Thank you very much. I'll come to Ms. Precious. I know why I'm waiting till Mr. Afo finishes, and I'll get to her. So Mr. Call Ishen, since you're using his phone, but Mr. Afo, kindly take us through how can I become a Cambridge tutor?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Eugene. As our sister rightly said, we can't put aside grace. Grace is carrying us through all. But aside grace, as you are rightly saying, there are other things you have to do. Now, to be a Cambridge teacher, I think aside your BSc or whichever certificate you have, your master's or whatever, there is training you can also have to give you an upper hand over your colleagues. So for Cambridge, they have training. You can participate. I think it's twice a year or something. So even if you are without any experience and then you are with their certificate, that will give you an upper hand over your colleagues. And then again, if you have long-term experience with teaching too, it will give you an upper hand. For example, when I was going to Christian High, I met with a couple of teachers over there, but my experience with GES gave me an upper hand over the others. So I think teaching experience with a credible, so if you are with GES, I think it's more credible. So that will give you an upper hand. And I'm not saying internationals, other private schools wouldn't be considered, but it's somebody teaching in GES is kind of, you understand, the supervision from the, education office and all that will make you more finer. So I think aside grace, you can do training. Other international, educational systems also have their training. So that would give you an upper hand. And I think if you want to be a Cambridge teacher, you can start through the training. You just pay some small pounds and then you go through training. And I think that will get you the job as a Cambridge teacher. And when we get to the packages, we talk more about that to whet your appetites on how to, the benefits you get when you become a Cambridge teacher. All right, thanks so much, sir.
That is very necessary. People would like to know what is so juicy about the Cambridge that you people do not want to leave and come to the GES. So, so we will talk about that. So, Miss Precious, kindly take us through. It looks like you are quite well versed in that. So, what are some of the things we have to go through in order to be considered as worthy of being in Cambridge schools?
Yes, so just as Regina and then Mr. Apple said, so the grace is the first thing, grace at work, yes. Then the second thing is also how diligent you are. And how diligent you are is also tracked through your CV, because your CV speaks a lot about you. So that also tells us that when we are putting down our CV, we need to take a careful look at what we put down. Every bit of activity or every bit of engagement you've had within the teaching process must be covered, so that at any point in time, everyone knows what you are doing at like every point in time. Then the other thing is also about experience. And so for every opportunity we have, we need to count it as a form of experience. And so when you are moving into the campus system, they try to look at the number of years you have taught, just as Mr. Amfu said. So looking at maybe your background from GES. So even though it is not based on really GES, because I remember when I started with Morgan, and then anytime I had the opportunity to engage with other teachers from other international schools, and they get to know that I'm coming from GES, they are like, how did you get here? So I always ask why. And the reply has always been like, okay, in GES, teachers are not really up to the game. Teachers are not, some are not hardworking, let me put it that way. Sometimes you find some teachers being lazy and all that, but for you to get into the Cambridge system, that means that you really put in a lot of hard work and all that. So that also gave me one point to note that to be a Cambridge teacher, then you need to be very diligent with your work. You need to be hardworking, and you also need to track your progress within the period. Then aside that, just as Mr. Amfo said, you also need to undergo some trainings. It can be trainings on the job where probably your employer will have to take you through some trainings. Then personally too, you must have that zeal of always trying to train yourself. And so I don't always leave training opportunities anyhow, even way back in GES. So in GES, for every training opportunity I get, I try to enroll myself, whether it is free or it is paid for, even up to date. So there are lots of online courses that I do engage myself in that I pay for. So even with the Cambridge training, I have to train myself. That was like 3 or 4 years ago, which I paid almost close to 1,000 Ghana cedis. When you convert the pounds into Ghana cedis, I paid, and it was just for 3 days. So I quite remember when GES was having this school-based training for teachers, and then teachers were complaining about the ball of Kenke and those blah, blah, blah. So I on my training college platform, I was telling my friends, look at it, I have to pay 1,000 cedis for just, no, was it a day? I think 2 days, just for 2 days, 1,000 cedis for 2 days. But I think that there has been a lot of benefits out of that 1,000 cedis that I paid. Yes, so grace is the first and foremost thing. Experience is part of it. How diligent and how hardworking you are, it's also part of it. Your zeal and readiness of always undergoing trainings, even if you have to do it personally, it's also part of it. And I think even on the job, you are always looked at as in the way you conduct yourself, the things you do, your relationship with the children and all that, because the lifestyle of the children within the Cambridge system is way, way different from what we see within our GES system. So within the Cambridge system, you are looking at the students being your colleague, you are looking at the students being your brother, your sister. Sometimes you even have to come down to the level of the learner, and that is what makes them feel accepted. Yes, and so that has been some of the key points I've picked over the years. And so when people ask me, I tell them, wait, whatever opportunity you have to learn, make good use of it and learn it, and that will really count for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the theme for this current discussion is grace. Wherever grace is, we have to locate it. And, but I think you mentioned one very important core value, and that has to do with diligence. It's very, very important. I quite remember in our first school as the HOD for social studies, I had one teacher come in, and we embraced him along the line. He actually prepared his CV at my blind side. As the HOD, he made me one of his referees and said I was the principal of the school and he was the HOD for social studies. And this, he had not even mentioned it to me. He had not told me anything. So even if I had gotten a call from a potential employer that, okay, so you know, so what position you have in your current school, I would have, said something that I wasn't supposed to say. So I think sometimes in our desperation to get there, we tend to lie, we tend to cut corners and all that. So like you're saying, letting go of your 1,000 cedis to acquire some knowledge and the experience isn't easy. People are not willing to do that, and yet they desperately want to get into the Cambridge system. They go there and they expose themselves. Again, you said something very important that has to do with coming to the level of the kids in several ways. Okay, so I've been in GES I had been there for quite a long time before I finally moved into the Cambridge system. And it wasn't easy because the relationship with the kids back in GES is totally different. So when I came in, I had to observe, I had to learn and quickly adjust. So a lot of things that would have attracted some lashes when I was in GES, now I am talking to them, counseling them, and a whole lot. So yes, I believe teachers here will learn a lot as we go on. So thank you all very much. So far, we'll be looking for grace. Let's move to the next question, please. Okay, so some benefits. Mr. Ishen couldn't wait to tell us some of the benefits, and I know he's really, really benefiting from the Cambridge system. So, Mr. Ishen, please, Mr. Afro, until you change your phone, I'm going to have a problem. So, Mr. Afro, let us know some of the benefits that you are enjoying as a Cambridge teacher. Please unmute. You're on mute, so unmute.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Eugene. Let me start with this. You see, for every Cambridge institution, there is base rate you have to pay your teachers. So with that, at least your salary will be better off than when you are in GES or any other private institution, which is GES. And so that is the first one. And then the next one to talk about is other packages, such as being an examiner for Cambridge. So they are going to pay you in pounds. And you know the rate of the cedi to the pound. It's around 11 cedi. So even if you are taking equivalent as GES marking, and you are marking like, let's say, papers, let's say GES is giving you 10 cedis for a paper, and they are also giving you 10 pounds for a paper, and you're getting 100 pounds. You convert it to Ghana cedis, and it's a huge sum of money. And you'll be marking every May. Sure, baby, yes. And we're marking every May and then November. So at least you are short of your 10,000 plus Ghana cedis every year. And it's not only once. You have it in May, then you also have it in
Too short. The VEC examiners here, please send it to the chat room. How much are you paying for marking one script? We'd like to know. I want to do something. I want to calculate something. So please go ahead.
Sure. So being examiner, and there are other, portfolios you can also apply for. I mean, currently I'm an IB examiner. I'm not Cambridge examiner. But then after marking for 2 years, you can be a supervisor, and obviously your rate will increase. And you can also be a chief examiner. Obviously, it will come with some packages. And sometimes there'll be, you have to travel outside to have conferences and meetings as examiners and all that. So these are some of the benefits. I know my other colleagues will also have their own to say. So I'll just mention these two and then leave the rest for Miss Precious and then my other colleague to continue. Thank you, sir.
We're really whetting the appetite of some of our colleagues in the GES sector. Okay, so Ms. Regina, kindly share with us some of the benefits you have applied so far.
Okay, so I won't go into the financial aspect because Mr. Afo has delved much into that. All British Council partner schools have the access to over 100 courses that they can enroll for free as being a staff of a Cambridge school. And this is one of the benefits that I have acquired so much that it is making me toe the line of special education, getting interest into that, because the knowledge I am gaining from that partner school online training is so massive. Aside the training, you meet prominent parents who can easily lead you to places that you might find it difficult getting access to. There was a time where a church member fell very sick and I was run to, only for us to be told to go to Medimosis to get some tests run. When I got there, the owner of Medimosis was a parent. And for he knowing me as the child's teacher, every medical bill was not charged. Everything was done for free. And so that alone is enough benefit for us. Also, there was a chance where one of us parents needed a staff to travel outside, and she works with US Embassy, and the teacher was given that opportunity. So knowing the caliber of parents that bring their children to the school is also an advantage for us. When you need something and you get to them, they easily supply that support for us. So for me, I'll take the training and then the caliber of parents that we meet, and it's so beneficial to us. Yeah.
Thank you very much. It's good to strike a good relationship with parents, even though sometimes they lead us in trouble. But by and large, yeah, several times I have lots of testimonies on this. They can do for you, they do it for you, and it makes life very, very easy. So thank you very much, Madam Regina. Miss Precious, I know you've had some, but share.
Yeah. So Regina and Uncle, they've said a lot. Yes. So apart from the financials, apart from the regular trainings, which also expands our knowledge base, there is also this benefit that sometimes, as Regina said, we as the teachers don't really benefit from it. I quite remember while with Morgan, I had a friend who had an issue with her eyes in O. And then through our chats, the friend was telling me, oh, my eye, and I have to see a doctor. But the doctor resides in Accra. I think the doctor is a consultant for Whole Teaching Hospital. So he comes, I think, once a month or something. So when she mentioned, I was like, okay, is it Dr. So and so? And she was like, yes, that's the doctor. And I said, oh, is that so? I'm going to give him a text message right away. And quickly I sent the text message, said, oh, is that your friend? Let her come to Accra tomorrow morning. And I was surprised. My friend was like, Precious, I went drugs that I was supposed to buy for millions of CDs and all that. They were all given to me free. I'm like, oh, okay. So my friend was like, you have to continue being in the Cambridge school. Please don't come back to GES. Yes, so that is how far the benefits also go. Sometimes you, the teacher, might not really get it direct, but it comes in several ways. And I think there are certain times that some parents also know your wealth. And so there are certain opportunities they see it and when they are like, Precious, can't you have a look at this? I think this can help your organization. Okay, can I link you to this person so you can get this? And that also counts a lot. And for me, I am always proud about the knowledge base, because even with the kids that we are teaching, they are always researching, they are always on the internet and all that. And so you must also be abreast with time. You must know the things that are happening day in, day out. There are certain times that my students say certain things and I'm like, okay, so which TV channel was that? Okay, give me let me go and check. So when I also go home, I go check it out. And then they are so quick that when you come back, they ask you, were you able to get a channel? So what did you learn? And so that interaction, and that also keeps me on my toes day in, day out. And so being a Cambridge teacher has a lot of advantages and benefits. Yes, probably the financials might not really come hand in hand as we might expect, but there are other things that are, when you quantify them in terms of money, it is really, really a lot. And it goes a long way, not for us as the teachers alone, but to even our external families and all others. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Wow, it's been so interesting. It's been a wonderful meeting so far. And personally, I believe many people are willing and cannot wait to get onto the Cambridge system. A reminder that this program is being brought to you by the Prime Choice Educational Consult, and we render the various services, educational consultancy, recruitment services. Yes, we've helped lots of teachers in terms of getting some good schools to go and work or teach. We also organize workshops and seminars. We have a school improvement plan, CV writing and cover letters. That's Michael's specialty. He does so well in there. We have lots of testimonies to buttress this point. And then pre-interview warm-up. You should see him talking to potential teachers of some schools as if a commentator running commentary in our local radio stations, and people go and they get the jobs of their dreams. So Michael, you're doing so well, keep it up. And then we also have classroom design mastery. So we help design classrooms, and all these things, we do them for a token. So anytime you would like to, would you like to say one or two things?
No, please carry on. Carry on.
Okay, so we'll come back to that. Okay. So the next one. So people are hearing of the benefits. They can't wait to get on board, but it's not all that rosy. Yes, the money you will get, the benefits will come, but you are obviously going to encounter some challenges, and that's what our guests will share with us. So quickly, since we still have a few things to cover, quickly, you can share with us one or two challenges that you encounter in your various endeavors. And I'm getting some messages in the chat room. I'll read them out for our guests to answer them in the best possible way. So a few challenges, one or two challenges that we encounter in the various schools that we work. Madam Regina, I'm glad you are on board since you teach as well as into administrative duties. What are some of the challenges you face?
Okay, so when it comes to the classroom challenge, because we do more of inclusion, we pick autistic children, children with fine motor disability, we pick children with dyslexia, dyscalculia, and all these children are mixed up in the classroom. So getting a differentiated lesson becomes quite challenging, but we try as much as possible never to leave any child behind, because every parent wants value for the money they are paying for. So that becomes a very big challenge when you need to get all these children seated and convey content for them to grasp. It's not an easy task. It's not an easy task. And normally these children with such disabilities are the ones who have difficult parents. And they will come screaming, making all sorts of issues, creating problems in the school. And if they are also not well handled, they tend to send wrong signals about the school out there. So with parents being issues, children in the classroom getting differentiated lessons, putting so much stress and effort on the teachers, and at the end of the day, it's like your efforts are not being appreciated, gets you on a down level. But however, we try our possible best to get everyone on board and make sure that every child gets what is expected through differentiated learning. So that is the biggest challenge we
Thank you
have,
very much.
especially dealing with the autistic children, because they hardly sit down and you have to run after them. Always try as much as possible to get them doing an activity that is not different from what you are teaching the whole class. And it's so difficult. It's a great challenge to us. Yeah.
I've had that experience myself. Sometimes such parents are so overstretched and they rely on you, the teacher, to have the magic wand and then change the child overnight, and it's not easy. They get so frustrated, agitated, and very emotional. And sometimes you need to deal with such parents in the best way possible, otherwise everything could backfire. So yes, I really do understand what you're trying to put across. Okay, so Miss Precious, some challenges?
Challenges. Yes. So when we were talking, we kept talking about being diligent, being hardworking. And being diligent and being hardworking comes with a lot of challenges. One is your time, your availability. So hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Hello?
Miss Precious, we can hear you.
Can anyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Hello, Mr. Eugene, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you. Please do bear with us. She has joined us all the way from home, so as we await her to rejoin, Mr. Afo, if you can go ahead with your submission.
Hello?
Miss Precious, can you hear us?
Hello?
Hello, Miss Precious. Miss Precious, can you hear us?
Hello, can anyone hear me, please?
Yes, we can.
Yes, please, we can hear you.
Okay, yes. So even the challenge I've just had is one of the challenges that we also face. So how well you are with your gadgets, how well you are with the usage of other teaching and learning resources aside probably using the chalk and the board, because there are certain times that you will have to deliver certain lessons via the internet or via any other device. And so the challenge becomes, how adaptable are you? If you are someone who is not subject to change, then that means that there's going to be a lot of challenges, which like we mostly face, but you quickly have to adapt to the changing times and then see how well you can work things out. Then the other thing also comes with the character of the children we deal with. So as teachers, we have our characters, and then we have the way and manner in which we were brought up. The kids we are also teaching, they also have a way and manner in which they were brought up. Then we also have our environmental factors, which are also influencing the way we are behaving. And so that becomes a challenge sometimes. But all in all, it's still about being adaptable. How quickly are you to look at the situations all around to adapt to it? You know, in our African setup, a child doesn't talk when an elderly person is talking. But in our setup, children are encouraged to be like they should be vocal. But there are certain times that sometimes, because of the way we have been trained, if someone is vocal, if you don't really interpret it well, then it's going to be like the person is disrespecting you. And so these are some of the things that we quickly have to adapt. I remember when I joined the international setup, For the first few months, I was like, I didn't know what to do to myself. But sometimes you say one and the person is saying like 4 or 5. You are not even done talking. The person, no, you can't do it. And I'm like, and I quickly have to read. I quickly have to go on YouTube, Google few things, listen to few things. And my first boss was very supportive. He was like, Precious, this one you have to just allow them to do it. Just guide them. Let them do what they want to do. Make sure that they are safe, they are doing the right thing, and just allow them. And so I quickly have to learn and adapt to it. So these are some of the few challenges that we face. And it's mostly influenced by our environment, the environment we are coming from, the environment the children are also coming from, and even the environment we find ourselves. And the external environments that we all close from school and move in also influences us a lot. Yes, so the environmental challenges, the behaviors, characters, and then all that also goes a long way to affect us. And if you don't take care, you can land yourself in trouble. And that is why mostly people say that being in the private sector, the job security is not really assured. But I've grown to learn that just do the right thing. Whatever your environment, your school environment, whatever policies they have, working with, just adapt yourself to it, and then you are good to go. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I think whatever you said has been summed up by Mr. Kwarteng, who is also
hello. Unfortunately, I can't hear you. So I think really? I have to log out and come in again.
Yeah, do so. Kindly do so. But from the chat room, let me read what Mr. Kwarteng sent. And he's one of the consultants of Prime Choice. He says, in that environment, you have to work, and work. No time for laziness. And if you don't like pressure, don't join. You have to have the ability to float. If you sink, you are in trouble. And you also need to learn and be abreast with the 21st century teaching practices. You love what you do and you will excel. So I think it's all that Ms. Precious was trying to relay to us. It's very, very true. They demand so much from you and they expect you to do it. Mr. Afo, are you here with us? Kindly unmute, Mr. Afo.
Yeah, okay, Mr. Eugene, thank you.
Yes,
this time around you got my name right. Thanks for that. Yeah, anyway, there is a saying in Akan that goes that so in as much as you have protocols linking to people reducing price of drugs for you and all that.
I now understand. You mentioned that you attended one person school, right?
Oh.
So I think I understand you. Okay.
All right. Anyway, that's just by the way.
Yeah, of course.
So the first thing I'm going to talk about is you have to work extra hard. So when I had an appointment with Ghana Christian High, I told my HOD about it. And he told me that, okay, so it's good because you are young and you can work harder. As far as we are old and, we can't work in that environment. So that should tell you the kind of work you are going to do over there. And I tell you, it's really a very difficult task. If you don't, fasten your belt, you vanish along the line. So what our advise colleagues that wants to join the Cambridge is you have to psych yourself that you are going to work extra hard. It's not the usual dodging deadlines and all that. I mean, deadlines are strict and you have to meet them. And I think it helps you to grow if you're able to adapt to that environment. Anything you get your hand doing, you'll be able to develop it and then develop it well. So I think one of them, I don't see it as a challenge. I see it as a growth. is you have to work extra hard. And then the other thing I want to also talk about is your output, that is the performance of the students. Now, as Miss Precious, or I don't know if Miss Regina was talking about, parents hold you accountable. Sometimes some parents will come and be like as if you don't teach well, like you are not doing anything. Why is that my child is still not performing? But they will forget that the child will be around at D or maybe at E, and now the student is getting a D. So there has been an improvement, but because the student is not getting an A or a B, they see you as you are not doing anything. Sometimes you even be at home or during your weekend, a parent will call you, I saw this on Manage Back. Why that my child is getting this? You see, but they don't know what we are actually also doing for the student to even get that mark. And they want to hold you accountable since they are also paying huge sums of money, and they are right to. They want to, benefit of whatever they are paying. So the other thing is the outcome. And if you're not able to produce good results, with time, the system will be taking you out gradually. So you have to be hardworking, and then you have to also be diligent. And one thing I also want to talk about, I think Miss Regina spoke about it, is your ability to switch between teaching methods. You see, you have to get the results. So if you are teaching and then the student is not getting it with one teaching method, you have to switch to the other. And sometimes it becomes very difficult. You switch to the next one, the student is not getting it, but you have to get results from the student. So your ability to switch, you're working hard, these are some petty challenges. But I know if you psych yourself that this is what you are up to and you want to do it, I don't think it will be a challenge for you. Some of us have been able to do it, and I know you will also be able to do it. So don't be discouraged with the challenges you are talking about. If you psych yourself that this is what you want to do, I believe that with hard working and then by the grace of God, you'll be able to get there. Thanks so much, sir.
Thank you very much. Okay, so briefly, the difference between the traditional setup and the Cambridge setup, I think already we can actually decipher, but in your view, what do you think is the difference between GES and Cambridge? Miss Precious, if you can hear me. Briefly, just touch on this for us.
Yes, GES and Cambridge. So for me, one difference I always talk about is the resources, availability of resources. So when you take the Cambridge setup, the structures are there, as in the physical structures, the classrooms, the tables, the chairs, the space, it is there. As compared to GES, taking myself back, when I was teaching in GES, the classroom I was teaching in was a draft wall with the roofing sheet very outmoded with holes in it. So anytime it is raining, I have to, we have to pack ourselves into one corner where we don't have any rain dropping in there. And so the question is, if I want to implement something, maybe sitting arrangements or whatever, how do I do it? But when you compare that to the Cambridge setup, the structure is there, the space is there. And so even switching the teaching methods, there are certain teaching methods that you have to pair students. Students have to carry out research and all that. In the traditional setup, we don't even have the research tools and materials to use as compared to the Cambridge setup. So for me, it is more of the resources in terms of structure, resources in terms of space, resources in terms of teaching and learning materials, and even having the ability to use different teaching methods. That is where the difference comes for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The resources, it's very, very important. You should have been part of this in our previous session. We had one Miss Edna here, and then she was talking to us about some of the challenges she's been facing. She teaches at the upper part of the Volta region, and yes, the resources over there are very scanty and very, very dilapidated in terms of the infrastructure, and it's very disheartening. So yes, it's very, very important that the government has to do something about resources, infrastructure, and whatnot, things that could facilitate teaching and learning. So thank you very much for touching on this. Ms. Regina, could you touch on this briefly for us?
Okay, so I will be looking at the class sizes. In Cambridge schools, majority of the class sizes are very less as compared to the GES. And so if you need to manage the progress of every child, it becomes very easy. For instance, if you have 15 to 20 children in a class with a teaching assistant, you can do much better for the children as compared to having 60, 55 in a class with one person. And so the needs of every child is not met, is not totally met at the GES level as compared to the Cambridge schools. So, and then because the children matter so much to us and they are the focal point of everything, there is so much attention for each child to grasp concepts. And then you know that as a teacher, you are going to be appraised and your salary increment depends on whatever is being done in the classroom. So the teachers go extra mile as compared to the GES teachers. Whether a child passes or not, their salary is given. If increment is given across board, they all get it. When they were fighting for COLA, they were given 15%. We are still doing what we are doing, and we couldn't even go for strike. We go the extra mile and we get the results for the children. But it's like the GES teachers don't really care much about the children entrusted in their care. Probably they are overwhelmed with the numbers, I can't tell, but for Cambridge schools, the numbers are less, the attention is there, every child, it matters so much that inputs are put in place to make every child successful, irrespective of the child's intellectual abilities. Yeah.
Wow, thank you very much. This is very insightful. I think sometimes coming from the GES background into the Cambridge really helps. In my previous school, I could mark scripts for about 8 different classes, and each class has an average class size of about 35, 36 students each. And you have to mark for all of them, sometimes within a period of about 1 week before vacation. And then you come to the Cambridge and there's a class size of about 15, and you are teaching less classes. So already you could do so much for your previous school, but now you have very less class size and you are able to do it as how you should. So yes, it's very, very important that government has to do something about the population size or class sizes of our various schools. It really makes sense. Okay, so Mr. Ishan, briefly on this, Mr. Afro, briefly, so that we can move on to our next question.
All right, thank you, Mr. Eugene. So on the differences between GS and then the Cambridge, I will talk about the content because GS is more of it's more of chew and pour with minimal understanding. But when you take the Cambridge, the first time I started teaching Cambridge, I was like, wow, if I had done Cambridge, I would have gotten all A stars because it's simple. And in biology, for example,
before you pass, you forget.
Oh, that one is even part. I see. All right. So, but my first experience with Cambridge, I was so happy about the content of whatever we are teaching. And moreover, with marking Cambridge papers, we do marking points. So if you are describing the process of photosynthesis or maybe why light is necessary for photosynthesis, and you miss out any step, where you missed is where they are going to back up to. But with Cambridge, it isn't like that. So far as you are talking about point, which is related to the content you are talking about, they just mark point by point. And I think that is a very good thing, because GS is training you not to make a mistake, and that is not their life issue. So I think Cambridge, in terms of content, it's on point, and I don't think maybe, but personally, I don't think I will let my child go to the GS system, because it's more of chew and pour and with minimal understanding. I remember we learned so many things that it is not applicable, but the Cambridge was summarized in such a way that you will see the essence of learning this thing.
Yeah.
We did so many things that were not useful. So I think with the content wise, Cambridge is on top, and not only Cambridge. I think I'm also doing the IB. The IB is excellent and all that. So I think that's what I'm going to say about the content.
I think you're able to notice the difference. You see teachers drawing all sorts of things on the board, and you expect students to just chew and be able to label the part, and that's it. They forget nothing applicable. So yes, it speaks volume. I think the whole curriculum has to change so that it can follow current trends. So yes, it really makes sense. Okay, we won't go much into this because we have less time. We should be done in the next 30 minutes. So yes, let's quickly talk about this. How you're able to manage the multicultural and racial differences in the school. Because yes, these are schools with children from different backgrounds, from different countries. They have their own cultural differences. How are you able to deal with them, especially if you're confined in your classrooms? What you might deem, or what one child might deem unacceptable, the other child doesn't have any problem with it. So how are you able to balance it? How are you able to identify these differences and then work around it? Let me begin with you, Ms. Precious.
Okay, yes, so how to manage the multicultural and then the racial. So most of the times, you really need to come to their level, like try to understand their culture, immerse yourself into their culture. If you're able to do that, then you'll be able to deal with them. As I said earlier on, we are coming from different environments. We've been brought up differently. We've experienced different things. And so your ability to ask questions, your ability to know exactly why or the reasons behind some of their actions and inactions, that really helps us to manage them. I quite remember we had an event, and then one child dressed like in their cultural setup, she dressed, and then she had part of her body being exposed. And then one other girl was like, "No, Miss Precious, this is unacceptable. She's exposing her body." Now, to the other child who dressed that way, she wasn't exposing her body, but she's showing her identity, being an African woman. But the other person, because probably morally at home, she has been oriented that as a lady, you don't have to expose any parts of your body and all that. So the other girl has to come in and now educate us as in why she has to dress that way. The child was a bit like, she was okay with it. I said, no, but I still think this is unacceptable. But with time, and so that is how we learn, and that is how we manage it. And so you don't always have to condemn certain actions. Certain actions come in as a surprise where you have to react, but quickly you have to adapt, find out why it is that way. And so it is more of finding out, more of immersing yourself into their culture. Let them feel that you are part of the culture. Try to understand them from their perspective, and then we are all good to go.
Thank you very much, Mr. Afo.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Eugene. So with multiculturalism, I want to talk about knowing. That's the first one. So as much as possible, you have to read a lot about different culture and what they do and what they don't do. And you can't know it all. So the next thing is to be very sensitive when you are in the classroom. Sometimes you pass some comment and then you can even detect from the faces of the students if this comment is indeed good or is it favoring the person's culture, or from the person's perspective, how is the person perceiving all those things. So you have to also be very sensitive when you are in the class and then know what to say and then what not to say. On this multiculturalism thing, we had a PD on it in Morgan International Community School, and one teacher was like, a student was in a classroom and the student was, she asked permission several times to go out to use the washroom. So the teacher became suspicious, and then the teacher asked the student, are you pregnant? This student isn't a Ghanaian. So in our Ghanaian setting, if you tell a student, are you pregnant? The student will just laugh and then go out. But in the case of this student, the parent even has to come in to meet the school and then all that. So you have to be very sensitive when you are teaching in the international system. Some things we play with in Ghana here is taken very serious. I remember just last week on social media, somebody said a word in Ghana, which we play with. Somebody from Kenya comments that if you say this word in Kenya, you are going to be stoned. And I was like, what's the meaning? I asked them, but they didn't reply me. So things like this, you wouldn't know, and then you just play around it. It can even, end your life and all that. So you should be very sensitive in the classroom and know what to say, what not to say. In as much as possible, you have to avoid being partial, being biased, all those things, and then concentrate on your content. And some of the content too, it's related to culture. So when you get there, those teachers taking those subjects, when they get there, you should know how to handle it in such a way that none of the students will be offended. All right. Thanks so much, Mr. Eugene.
Thank you, Mr. Afro. Thank you very much. Ms. Regina, briefly.
Okay, so in our setting, we have a plan where we have people and places. So in every class, we try as much as possible to make people tell us what their culture is, what they believe in, what they don't like, and their dislikes. So it becomes like a culture of the class. And so it makes everyone well versed in whatever multicultural or racism that is going on. We have some Americans who don't like playing with the Black kids, like the Nigerians, for instance. And we need to make the children understand that we are all the same. And so through the process of people and places, they get to understand that we are all one, just that we speak differently, our color is different, and that is how we manage it. It's done in every class and it's on Fridays. So they share everything that they know. Where you feel somebody would offend you and you wouldn't like it, you spill it out, and then we discuss and then we trash them off. So that is how we go about it. We once had a Jamaican child who lived in Canada and came to our school, and he had a very, very bad temper. He would hurt you and wouldn't even see anything wrong with it. So we need to sit the children down, explain to them that, yes, this is not a right attitude that is being condoned by the school. However, he needs to go through a process to help him understand that he's moved from one setting to another where he has to try and comport himself wherever he finds himself. And God being so good to us, we realize all his tantrums were from home. Parents are telling him he's a bad child, he has a bad temper. And even in his essay writing about himself, he wrote that he knows he has a bad temper and he's working on it. So through that, we got to know it's not his intention to do what he was doing. However, there was something behind his attitude. Parents are condemning him, and God being so good, when we spoke to this boy, showed him much love, he realized that, oh, okay, everyone is for me. I'm not as bad as people see me to be. And the children also tend to love him, and there was so much peace through that session of people and places that we have put in place every Friday to address these multicultural and racism in the school. So that's how we handle it in our school.
So the GS teachers, you are hearing how important it is not to use certain words on students, because you go to most of these GS schools and the curses and the insults and the name callings, even from teachers towards students, is very, very disheartening. So before we take questions from our dear participants, I'd like you to give a short message for the various teachers here, very short, those who are willing to join those of us in the Cambridge system. I'll begin with you, Mr. Afo. Very short message. Mr. Afo, are you here?
Yeah, okay, thank you, Mr. Eugene. So my short message to teachers is that you shouldn't be in haste to join the Cambridge. I think you have to concentrate on whatever you are doing, work very hard, and do what you do best. And I believe that if it's the will of God for you to join the Cambridge, you'll be there. I believe that God has timing for everything, so you don't have to rush into whatever you have planned doing. Just work hard towards whatever you are doing. A recommendation can even come from a teacher or a parent or something, looking at how best you are doing to their kids or how best you are doing in the school. So let's work very hard wherever we find ourselves. And I believe that at the right time, you find yourself in the right place. Yeah, thank you.
Message well taken. Miss Precious.
Yes, so I will say that let us all be lifelong learners. Let us be diligent and let's keep exploring. Yes, so these are my 3 key words. Let us be lifelong learners. Let us be diligent with what we are doing now and in the future, and let us keep on exploring. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Miss Precious. Miss Regina.
I would like to tell every teacher that teaching is an art. And so we have to be creative in everything that we do. We shouldn't always sit at one side and say, this is how it is supposed to be. Go the extra mile, look for something different, make the effort to make the lesson always an interesting one. Make sure that you draw closer to children who are having challenges and let them also get at par. And at the end of the day, when you see these children who are struggling get to that level, you have that success story to tell one day. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. I guess it's been so wonderful having you. But if any one of you could answer, Ms. Pearl Akins would like to know, how does one become an examiner in the Cambridge setting? I don't know if Mr. Ishan one become an examiner in the Cambridge or IB setting. Is that all?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we also want to be enjoying the pound sterling and the dollar. So how can one become an examiner in the Cambridge setting?
Okay, so for you to be an examiner in the Cambridge setting, you have to teach for at least 2 years, and that will qualify you to apply. And sometimes you might have less than that experience, but then if you have undergone their training, you can also have the opportunity to be an examiner. So either you teach for 2 years or you undergo training. Even if you are not a Cambridge teacher, if you have their training, I mean, it qualifies you to apply for Cambridge examiner. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir.
Yeah, Ms. Pell, if you'd like more information on this, contact me. I'll link you up to Mr. Afo. Okay, so from Moses, where do you get the Cambridge training? Ms. Precious, can you help with this? If one wants to acquire the training to become a teacher in the Cambridge setting, how can this be done?
Yes, so the Cambridge training comes in 2 forms. We have the on-site, which they usually publish. I think it's done once a year. So they have centers, and then they have country reps who usually organize these trainings. Then also you can also have it online. I think currently we have the online ongoing, so that also comes. We publish it, and I think if you subscribe to their mailing lists, you can always have those updates as in when they are having the Cambridge training. And currently they do have, so probably if through this medium we can have a platform where we can share those training opportunities and all that. I think it will be in the right direction. And sometimes you can just Google to find out if Cambridge trainings are ongoing. You can access them. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you very much. Okay, so we have one from Sir Robert. He says, is it all teachers in Cambridge schools that are examiners or selected ones? So I think it's a matter of applying and qualifying, yes, to be an examiner, just as it's done in the GES setting. And then how does Cambridge curriculum, how different is Cambridge curriculum from the GES? They've already touched on that. The fact that this is more like chew and pour the GES one, and the fact that this one is more for those ones. And we are opening the floor to each and every member. If you'd like to ask a question, kindly raise your hand or kindly alert us. You'll be asked to unmute your mic and you can ask our guests questions pertaining to the Cambridge system. So we have Prince Mensa Kojo. Kindly unmute and ask your question.
Hello. Good evening to you all.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
Hey, Reggie. Nice seeing you again. Actually, I joined very late. And then here I teach in Achimota School. And I really wish I could have something to do with the Cambridge setting. As my sister just said, if there can be any platform.
Is it Achimota saying hi?
Yes, please.
Someone would like to be there.
Oh, the GES now.
Career development and improvement of all.
There's nothing better in GES now. There's nothing better.
Okay.
It's frustrating now, seriously.
Okay, so can you please?
So if there can be any platform that you can get some links to join online or maybe get updated with whatever is going on. We want to learn.
Okay, so let me answer this. Are you part of the Prime Choice WhatsApp group?
No, Reggie and Techi introduced us to it, but we are not on any group yet.
Hey, then you are doing yourself a great disservice. Please try and join because
I blame Reggie. I blame Reggie for doing that.
I really listen out, so kindly join.
I blame you. I blame you. You're hiding this.
You see, you are being blamed for this, so please try and back him up. Yes, my brother really wants to get out of this, so please do so for him. Help him. Don't enjoy things alone. Allow him to.
Well noted.
Thank you very much. Yes, anybody else? Anybody else who would like to ask our guests any question, kindly do so before we bring down the curtain on today's session. Please ask questions, so don't let us end before you send us private messages. I won't mind. Okay, so I think I have a message here. Let me see. Okay, so Janet says it's been a very insightful session. Please let us read your feedbacks. Kindly send us your feedbacks. Janet, thank you very much. We appreciate the fact that you found this very insightful. Thank you very, very much. And some are receiving the grace, so keep on receiving it so that you can also get the opportunity. Okay, we have Mr. Usukwateng. So kindly unmute and then ask your question, please. Mr. Kwateng, can you hear us?
Hello, can you hear me, sir?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, please, I want to know, I think I wrote my question, but escaped you. I want to know the difference in terms of assessment between GES system and the Cambridge system.
Okay, so in terms of assessment, who would like to answer this for us? Kindly unmute any of our guests that is ready to answer this question.
Okay, so let me try to answer this question. In terms of assessment, there is no vast difference between GS and then Cambridge, but come again, please.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. So, but then with respect to assessment, if GS tells you to explain, what they are asking for is what I was talking about earlier. The things they will be talking about or the things they will need from you is so much. And they are looking for a perfect student, but Cambridge isn't like that. So with the assessments you are talking about, they explain, they demonstrate, they discuss, they are all there, but it's about what they want you to produce. So as I was saying, with Cambridge, you can explain a process. It wouldn't be on point, as in chronological order. But then, so far as you have idea about what you are saying, and you've mentioned the point in there, you'll be given a mark. But if it's in GS and you miss a step, everything is wrong. So that is the only difference. But for assessment, I think it's the same. But what they require of the student is what differ, and that makes the difference.
Well noted. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So Ms. Harriet Jan says it's been very educative. Thank you very much for this program. Thank you for your feedback, Ms. Harriet. We are glad you've been able to learn something today. Mr. Philip Deborah says that it's been very informative. Thank you, Prime Education Consult, for putting this together. We appreciate your comments. Keep them coming. We are about to end today's session. So Sir Robert says it has been an educative session. Thanks to the organizers, moderator, and the facilitators. Of course, they really enlightened us. And I believe most of you, the burning desire to be on board has been rekindled, and we know very soon you come and join us. It's been a very wonderful session. Ms. Precious, please, you can speak to us.
Yes. So to add to what Mr. Ample just said about the assessment. So when you look at the questions with the Cambridge setup, the questions are more practical. as compared to GES. Remember when we were in GES, as in BEC, they can ask, what is a mixture? And we always have that chorus. A mixture is a combination of two or more things, blah, 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 blah. But when you come to the international setup, they are like, okay, Kofi had maybe a tin of Milo, and then met Amma on the way, and Amma was having water. So they decided to put the water and then the Milo together. So in that process, what are they trying to do? Or what do you think the end result would be? It is still mixture, right? But the manner and way, so I see the Cambridge assessment of being more practical, that even through the process of learning, you can even cast your mind back home, things that are happening around you. So like you can practicalize whatever you are learning. And then even at the point of giving out what you have learned, that practicality is there. Osmosis, when we were in school, we learned that osmosis, that if you're like, is it something from one permeable something to another permeable, blah, blah, blah. But this one, the osmosis comes, they said, oh, someone had a hole in the yam and then something was added. So what do you think will happen? So in terms of the assessment, that is where the differences come with the GES or the traditional setup. We have what is osmosis? What is diffusion? Diffusion, okay, someone had a spray here and then someone could smell it outside. What do you think happened? It is still diffusion. Yeah, so it's about the practicality. But I also want to urge teachers within the traditional setup that some of these things we can learn and implement wherever we find ourselves, not necessarily finding ourselves in the Cambridge school, but even within GES, we can still implement it, because I quite remember that in my own small way, while I was with GES, I was trying to learn some of these things, having conversations with other teachers within the international space to implement. And I think that made my work easier when I got into the international setup. So it wasn't a new thing for me to now learn, but I was trying to learn more to adapt to what I have already implemented. So that is what I would also like to add on that. Let us learn what is being done and implement, even though we might not have the resources, but we always have things readily available in our environments that we can pick on and then use it to implement. Thank you.
Yeah, so Mr. Patton says, from the port of GES, draw an agama lizard and label it grasshopper and the rest. All right, so from Mr. Hartwell and the Mega, kudos to Prime Choice Educational Consult and the guests. It's always great to join my classroom, my experience. Can't wait for the next edition. Thank you very much, sir, for those kind words. We really appreciate them. Okay, so in the absence of any, okay, so from Miss Nancy Nate, a very educative session. Thanks to you all. Thanks to you too for such kind words. Okay, so I don't think we have any questions yet. So let's take a few words from Michael, and then we'll wrap up today's edition. Michael, if you can hear me.
Yes, please, can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Dechi, we can hear you.
Wow, I think today our guests, they've said it all. I'm so much impressed by their delivery and the eye-opening agenda that they have, pushed to us. Many a times when people contact Prime Consults for jobs and we sometimes tell them some of the job offers available, the mere fact that the school is looking for a Cambridge teacher, they will run away on the condition that they don't have that experience. But I think today they have enlightened us. You don't have to stop learning. You need a bit of grace, a bit of hard work, and a bit of confidence to, apply for such jobs, because opportunities are there and you need it. So please and please again, don't give up. Whatever you are doing, wherever you are, don't see the Cambridge as the heavens that you pray for. I believe they've shared with us some of the challenges they are going through. So wherever you are, just do your best. And when the opportunity comes, the best that you have done will carry you there. Thank you so much, Mr. Eugene.
Thank you very much. It's been a very wonderful session. We've learned so much from our guests, and we'll try and stay in touch so that as and when their services are needed, their pieces of advice are needed, we'll link you to them so that they can also advise you on the path to take to also move to the next level. I think we can all agree that the GES keeps sinking, even though it's very disheartening. There is nothing much we can do. I know individually most teachers are doing their best to get things done, but it's been very, very hard. We thank you all for all that you keep on doing.
Mr. Eugene, can I say one thing? If you
yes, go ahead.
Yes, and please, Miss Precious is running a volunteerism in Volta region. So anyone interested after this, please contact me. And you can support in kind, even if you are not going with us to Volta region to ensure literacy and other stuff, please. You can support us in kind and we'll go there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Techi, the CEO of Prime Choice Educational Consult. Let's acknowledge a few individuals here. In the first place, we appreciate all of you for joining the session. Special thanks to Mr. Usu Kwarteng, Ms. Pearl Akins, Ms. Prisla Moforia Sabia, Mr. Darlington. He doesn't miss a second. Every single session we hold, he's always with us. Thank you very, very much. And then, if I don't mention your name, it doesn't mean you're not important. You're very, very important. Janet, Mami, Moses, Isaac Apia, Philip Deborah, Prince Mensa, Stella, Dansua, Mrs. Winifred Mensa, good to know you are here. Thank you all very much, Barbara, Mr. Robert, for joining. Thank you all for joining. Bernard, Charity, we appreciate the fact that you decided to join us. And a special thanks to our guests, Miss Precious, Apolome, Mr. Afo, Mr. Ebenezer Afo, and then Ms. Regina and Kuma Mensa. It's been a very, very wonderful session, very educative. We thank you very, very much for sharing with us your knowledge. And we hope you join us one of these days so that we can still tap into your repertoire of knowledge. Thank you very, very much, all of you. And we'll let you know when the next edition will take place. So till then, it's bye-bye from us. Bye.
Bye.